Good morning.
Morning.
Nice to have you with us on this lovely sunny morning.
It's beautiful.
Yeah,
actually,
it's really
there.
nice out there. Lovely sunny morning. Welcome, whether you're joining us live on Sunday morning or whether you're catching up on demand. It's great to have you with us. I'm Angie.
And I'm Sue, and we're your hosts this morning.
So this morning, coming up, Dazz is carrying on our series, Messages from God. So, and today we're looking at vacation responder. I think that's quite an American term, isn't it?
I think I have to say, it took me a little while to work out what it was until I saw the sermon. It's all about taking rest, I think, in our busy lives.
So I guess vacation is a bit like an out of office, isn't it? It's like,
yes.
When you go on holiday and you put your out of office on.
That's very exciting when I do that.
Yeah. Yeah. So Dazz is bringing us that message later on. We're looking forward to that. So hang around. So the whole series has been about messages from God, hasn't it? In the way that God speaks to us.
Yeah.
So should we just watch a little promo to remind us what the series is all about?
We are constantly bombarded with emails and messages these days. Our employers, peers, family, friends and colleagues are always communicating with us and sending us their updates, thoughts, feelings, ideas and opinions about what we should, would, could or must be getting on with and doing. We want to explore some of the messages God sends us in the Bible to think about how we can make the most of life and orient ourselves so we enjoy and explore what God has in store for us. Anyone who has a work email address isn't one of the mini highlights of going off on annual leave, just switching on your vacation responder, that little automatic process that kind of announces to anybody who sends you an email that you're not there. I'm on holiday, you can't get hold of me. I love it because it creates a space for that guilt-free breath from work, which I need, because usually the 2 weeks leading up to going off, I have to work double hard to make sure that when I'm off, I'm off. And time off is so important for us as it helps us to recharge our batteries, like physically, emotionally, and it keeps us just well. But it's amazing how hard it is to make sure we actually take it. I did a little bit of research and here's some stats for you. 62% of UK workers didn't take all their annual leave in 2022, and only 1 in 5 UK employees actually gets paid for their unused annual leave. Only 8% of workers in the UK have taken compassionate leave in the last year. And here's a fun fact. Women are far more likely than men to use all of their annual leave. There's 50% of women do that and 28% of men use all their annual leave. And I know that I'm not alone in there. When I'm actually off, I'm guilty of taking a sneaky peek at my email inbox, even when I put that vacation responder on. I tell myself all sorts of excuses, and I know I'm not alone. I've spoken to a few people and we all do the same thing. Let's look at and think about rest and what its purpose is in our lives, because taking a break is more than just about resting our body. It's also about restoring a healthy perspective to our work and our life in general. And we need to think of it imagine an artist painting a picture and they lean right into an intricate part of it and they're painting away, and sometimes they need to sit right back and look at the whole piece and make sure the part they're working on fits with it, makes sense to the rest of the image. And we need to think, is that something we do when we rest from our work or from our life, whatever we're doing? And if you're a Jesus follower, how involved is Jesus in your rest as well? Could you take a step back with him and take a look at your life from his perspective? And can we do this regularly? Because rest is something that is actually prescribed by God since the beginning of time. There's this idea in the Bible called Sabbath, and God designed us to take a Sabbath rest, which can help us remember we don't just want to have a full life, a life with lots going on, but also a fulfilling life. So a life of service and doing things that feel rewarding. And there's a guy in the Bible, a prophet, or like a messenger from God, called Elijah. We find his story in the Old Testament in the book of 1 Kings or 1 Kings. And in chapter 19, we jump in at a point in Elijah's life when he's just had a super successful encounter with some rival prophets. He's just nailed the project and he shows them how powerful God is in quite a spectacular fashion, quite literally blowing his competition out of the water and just destroying them. But immediately following that, he gets threatened by the queen of that land, who promises she's going to send people and they're going to find you, we're going to hunt you down and we're going to kill you. So quite understandably, after this real high, perhaps, Elijah just freaks out and he runs for his life. He goes out into the wilderness, he finds a bush and literally hides under a bush in the middle of nowhere and prays, God, just end my life. I'm all alone and I'm just in so much trouble. And he just falls asleep. And I think that fear that he felt for his life caused Elijah just to lose hold of the perspective that he'd only just had before, when he was, threatened. He had this perspective of a God who is great and powerful and could do anything. But then this queen threatens him. And I wonder if that was simply a part of it, was maybe because he was just a bit worn out. As what happens next is God sends an angel to prepare some food for him. They bake him some fresh bread and pour out some cool water. He wakes up and he drinks that and he eats the food, goes back asleep again. And then the same thing happens again. So twice he's sort of fed and watered. And once he's had a bite to eat, a bit of a snooze, God appears to him, and he appears to Elijah in a gentle whisper. And God helps him find a right perspective and a godly perspective again, which he'd lost sight of in the stress of that threat from his life. So God reminds Elijah that he's not alone and that he's got some important stuff to be getting on with as well. And what's the message for us here? What's the message from God? Elijah's been serving God well, but then one comment from this authority figure kind of completely derails him and he's worn out. But God sees the need, gives him rest, and then reminds him what's true and that he had a purpose and some stuff to be getting on with as well. And Elijah, having been restored by this rest, goes on to continue to accomplish what God has asked him to do. I think the message for us is that we need rest, whether we like to admit it or not. And I don't like to admit that I need rest. And we need it because so we can work with God and contribute well to the world around us and build his kingdom in the best way. And a huge part of our purpose in life is our work, and is the way we serve those around us. We serve our family, our colleagues. And as we do so, we pour ourselves out. And it's key for us to notice that when we start to struggle to maintain a healthy perspective, maybe that means we're in need of a break to restore it. And rest isn't only about switching off and relaxing. It's also about, it's really important that we reset that perspective and we prepare to switch back on again and to do that really well. Our life's meant to be lived, and holidays and vacations, they're lovely, but they're not forever. So they're prescribed by God. We need those things. But if we're Jesus followers, then our breaks are there to refresh us. And the goal is that they enable us to take on the challenges of life and our work so we can build the kingdom of God and improve the lives of the people we meet everywhere that we go. So let's take our rest. It's so important, but let's remember it's so that we can do those things. What's the takeaways from this? Rest is really important. Are we actually getting enough rest? Where can you plan to rest this week? And rest isn't just about unplugging, but includes restoration and resetting our perspective. So how can you make sure that reset is happening? And what is your rest and restore perspective going to fuel? What is your rest going to enable you to do? There's some questions to sort of go away with and think about. And we think about this idea of setting a vacation responder, resting, so that we can be ready to come back and serve God and build his kingdom.
Wow, it's good.
Yes, it is actually. Yes,
Yeah.
it's good. Makes me not feel guilty about taking rest.
Yeah, no,
actually.
absolutely right. And that's the sort of the rest is sort of God prescribed rest.
Yes.
I quite like the idea of rest being to enable you.
Yes.
To do
yes,
something else.
exactly.
Right, now Dazz sent some questions, so let me read the questions. Rest is important. Are you actually getting it? What do you think?
I think so. I think I am actually.
Yeah, I think I'm all right. I'm not working at the minute, and I'm doing lots of them, but I'm very, very busy. But I think I'm finding it slightly easier to rest when. Though sometimes you do have to force rest, don't you? So we've been really, really busy this summer, but we actually went away overnight on Monday, which we're very fortunate that someone else arranged for us, and it was really, really timely. And you don't always need to go away, do you? But it is about when last we're just putting something in place that you just switch off completely, don't you?
Yeah.
Where can you plan some rest this week? Now, it's difficult, isn't it? Because if you're really busy,
Yes.
Particularly if you're caring for somebody else, it's hard, isn't it?
It is, but rest doesn't. I don't think rest has to be a long period of time. Sometimes just 5 minutes on your own, just sitting and just sitting in the garden, perhaps, or just sitting outside in a space. Just to take stock and then. Yeah,
and go again.
Yeah.
And I wonder sometimes if you can. This might sound silly, like when you're having a shower,
Yes.
you can actually make that an enforced rest
Yes.
time. So rather than having the shower, thinking about all the things you've got to do, just taking that time, I don't know, putting the radio on really loud, putting some music on, or just taking those 5 minutes when you're in the shower, just to sort of switch off completely. It's not as good as, you know. Well, I know sometimes lots of little back bits might be.
I think so.
Yeah. Okay, next question. Resting includes restoring and resetting a godly perspective. How could you make sure that happens? Oh, because that's interesting, isn't it? We can rest, and we can use the rest to read our latest crime novel, or to, you know, go out with people, and you know. But if we need to make sure we restore that godly perspective, that does involve a little bit of conscious, a bit of concentration,
isn't it?
Maybe that's something for this week.
I think so. I think that's something to really think about, really.
And the last question: what is your rest and restored perspective going to fuel, or what is your rest going to enable you to do?
I think rest enables you to do. Dazz talked about work, actually, and work is a big thing for most people, actually. So I think that rest enables you to do your work to your best, to your to your best, really.
Yeah, no, that's really important. And if you're not working, or if your work is, you know, sort of work in the home, it's no different, is it?
No.
So that rest enables you to do that properly. And I think sometimes if you're not going out to work, it's almost harder. Because when you go out to work, you've got those clearly defined work time and not work time. But when you're at home, when you're caring for somebody, when you're retired, it's actually, I think, sometimes harder to have
it's
that
just
sort of
creating
delineation.
a routine for yourself, isn't it?
Yeah.
I do think, actually, when saying what does rest look like, sometimes actually just an early night. It's good for me.
Yeah, and an early night where you don't sit and look at screens.
Exactly.
I don't know about you. I'm a great one for getting into bed and then having a quick scroll. And
Eddie?
Yeah.
No, I don't.
Oh, that's very good. That's very good. Anyway, so I hope you found that helpful. I hope that you will, you know, be able to find time this week just to stop and rest, and maybe just take some time to rest and reflect on, you know, on that rest in your life. As always, if you've got any questions about anything said this morning, or about church, or about faith, about Jesus followers, you can email us. It's on there on the screen at gotquestions@hawleybaptist.org.uk, and someone will get back to you. But don't hesitate to get in touch if you want to know anything else.